The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
What is up, wrestling fans? It's that time of the week for these guys from NI Wrestling to talk all things professional wrestling and call it right down the middle. That's right, it's time for this week's edition of Nerd Initiative Wrestling. Wow, easy for me to say.
That's how hyped up we are tonight.
I got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Wrestling Night Live, and we are live on the Nerd Initiative YouTube channel, the Twitch, the X, the Kick, the Facebook, wherever you're watching us. Thank you so much. Of course, I am the head of NI Wrestling. I'm also your host here on Wrestling Night Live. My name is Rich, and joining me as he does each and every week in the co-pilot's chair, you know him as the host of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast, better known as the ODPH. You know him as the host of Turn a Page, the comic book showcase, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Nerd Initiative YouTube channel. And of course, most importantly, you know him as the editor-in-chief of the comics division of Nerd Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Ken M.
I believed in Joe Hendry, and it happened.
That's right. And of course, last but certainly not least, he is a man that when he is in his spare time, he likes to go hunt those Pokemon, but he also likes to talk about pro grappling. He's the new guy. It's just Nick.
You know, I moved my desk around and now I just can't get the lighting right. So let's just do this.
I know. I mean, hey, listen, here's the thing. We do it on, you F it, do it live. That's where we're at sometimes. You got to do it live. And that's what we're doing here at Wrestling Night Live. And we got a lot of great things to talk about this week. Big show. A ton of stuff went down in the world of pro wrestling, including, let's be honest, I put Killer Week in Wrestling. It's the name of the show because there might have been some unaliving going on. We'll talk about that in the main event segment. But before we dive into the fun stuff in the wrestling, let's get some business out of the way. First and foremost, let's talk about our good friends at Nerd Initiative because it's the home of pop culture positivity. Nerdinitiative.com. Go swing over there. Check out all the great fandoms. The QR code is on the screen currently. And if your fandom's not there, you know what? Hit us up. Let us know. And I promise you, by the end of 2024, it'll be there. We're adding more and more stuff. I even opened up the nerdinitiative.com today, and I saw an article about those trashy Boston Celtics. So I'm disgusted that Nerd Initiative is doing sports at this point in juncture because who wants to write about Celtics fans? And if you're a Celtics fan, I don't apologize. Listen, if it wasn't for the fact that the New York Knicks were running short, we would have probably been there. I'm just throwing it out there.
Let them know.
We can argue about this all damn day. But you know what? Sports is launching preeminently. There's going to be a bigger launch. Hint, hint. Hush, hush. Wink, wink. Amongst other things going on. But I just wanted to give a shout out to our buddy Matt because, as a Boston fan, I just got to razz him. I couldn't believe Ken let that article go up. I just want to throw that out there. And it even had a Nerd Initiative Comics stamp on it because we don't have the sports stamp officially. And I can't believe you allowed that.
See, here's the thing. I understand what is going on right now, and Boston is having a time to celebrate, 18 years or 18 championships, congratulations, because the New York Knicks would have been there had it not been for injuries. Trust me, it would have been a whole different story, but that's why we're going to come back healthier and better next season. So I'm letting them have their victory parade now because there's only a short time until the draft happens, and then we go into the regular season, and then it's New York forever.
There you go. I like it. I'm appreciative of it. At least you didn't let them put up an article about the Stanley Cup.
No. That was never going to happen.
All right. Let's get Blue Shirt Nation stand up. I know people are like, why are these guys talking about that? Well, we understand that about 5 minutes in is our prime time. So we have to kill some time here.
Yes.
With that being said, though, folks, there is one other piece of business we got to get rid of before we talk about the pro wrestling action. Of course, that is if you're watching us on Kick, X, Twitch, or Facebook, thank you so much. Make sure you're following us there. Make sure you're following us on all the platforms. It's awesome. But if you're watching us on YouTube, or even if you're not, make sure you go over to the Nerd Initiative YouTube page. You smash that subscribe button. You click that bell icon for notifications. And last but certainly not, you tap that thumbs up to let the bosses know you want more pro wrestling content. Hell, you want more content, period, on the Nerd Initiative channel, because trust me, we got a lot more coming anyways, but, we're just trying to move, get some more stuff going out there in the world of pop culture positivity, and that's how we do's it. So, with that being said, we have now cleared out all of the business until the end of the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to talk about some pro wrestling. And let's kick it right off with, you noticed this past week, we were all busy, so we did not get an opportunity. I think 2 out of 3 of us didn't even watch this live, even maybe all 3 of us. But Clash at the Castle went down this past Saturday from Glasgow, Scotland at the OVO Hydro, or OVO Hydro, as I've been corrected on the internet. Good show. Got to see it after the fact. Let's talk about it. Let's go down through the card and we'll break down, because since we didn't do a recap, we're just going to do it right here. In the opening contest, believe it or not, for the undisputed WWE Championship, in an I Quit match, your champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, took on the phenomenal AJ Styles. This match got 27 minutes and 45 seconds. And at the end of the day, and still your undisputed WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. I would like to point out this match got pretty violent, pretty brutal, and we even got some color from one Cody Rhodes at some point in juncture in this match. But the ending, kind of interesting. By the way, Mama Rhodes smacking the taste out of AJ Styles' mouth, not once, not twice, but trace times. It was beautiful. And then the I Quit, and then Cody going a little heel on us. AJ quit, but he still hits him with the chair, or with the stairs, while he was handcuffed to the rope to end the match. And last but not least, as he's walking out to celebrate, our interim tribal chief, Solo Sikoa, was out there clapping before being jumped by the GOD. That's right. They're always going to be the GOD to me. And then for the save, we got the Viper, Randy Orton, of course, Kevin Owens. And I'm fully expecting, I know some people have been, there's this fake, like Money in the Bank lineup that's going around the internet, if you haven't seen it already. And it's saying it's going to be Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes for the belt. And I'm like, no, they're doing a 6-man tag. It's going to be Solo and the Bloodline versus Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Cody Rhodes, because they don't need to have a title match, because you have 2 Money in the Bank matches.
Exactly.
I think the writing is on the wall. That's the only reason you would have those guys come out and make the save, in my opinion. I mean, it could change, but I mean, that's going in. What were your guys' thoughts on the I Quit match from this past weekend, Clash at the Castle?
Well, I thought this went the way it was supposed to go. Obviously, Cody was not going to turn over the belt this soon. AJ Styles, though, had he won, and he would have been great to take the program somewhere else. But let's face it, this has been about Cody finishing the story and starting a new chapter. For AJ, this made a lot of sense, because this writes him off TV for a while, because I have long predicted that since the Forbidden Door has been swung open with TNA Wrestling, he is going to show up at Slammiversary.
Well, later in the show, we'll be talking about something AJ Styles is doing. So a little teaser there for later in the show. Nick, your thoughts on the I Quit match for the WWE Championship at Clash at the Castle?
I really liked this match. It got a lot of time, which I was surprised. It went a little longer than I thought it would, which I was fine with, because it was a really entertaining match. I did like the finish. I like how WWE has done a great job over the years of reestablishing that's, a chair shot means something. The steel stairs mean something. Like that. Like if you keep going back to that, we talk about it with other wrestling companies. If everyone's bleeding, then it doesn't mean anything anymore. So when you see it, it has an impact. It means something. So I really enjoyed that. My bold prediction was Cody was going to lose this match just to kind of freshen things up. But it looks like they're going to go with starting to move the Bloodline back to the forefront of storytelling, which could be a lot of fun as well. I think, with the additions to the Bloodline, that's a lot of cool things there. But circling back to the match, I really enjoyed it, and we'll see what happens with AJ going forward.
By the way, speaking of which, breaking news, our tribal chief, Roman Reigns, that's right, the real tribal chief, he has unfollowed Solo Sikoa on Instagram very publicly. So can't wait to see what that means. Maybe that means the return of our tribal chief sooner than later. And that's what I'm hoping for. There's one thing that happened in this match that we found out about after the fact through, people, freeze framing on Instagram and X and such. And that was, of course, throughout the night, and we're going to talk about this occasionally throughout this, because there was a couple different times, the ropes being loose was a problem.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who took the clip. The referee warns AJ Styles before this match that the ropes are loose. You can see the referee grab AJ. He's pulling on the rope. AJ then pulls on the rope, and that's him. So I don't understand why they didn't tighten the ropes. Maybe they couldn't. Why they didn't warn everybody and say, hey, maybe don't do springboards, because it's going to come into effect in the next match. Next match was the triple threat match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Your champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, defending against the Unholy Union, Elba Fire and Isla Dawn, and of course, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. By the way, I think if we would have all remembered at the time that Isla Dawn and Elba Fire are both Scottish, I think we might have had a few, maybe we would have changed our picks. I know I would have, but I completely forgot about it when we were doing the pre-show. This match got 12 minutes and 10 seconds at the end of the day, and your new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the Unholy Union. Sorry. I almost said Unholy Alliance. Maybe they're trying to steal it all. God damn it. So here's the thing. I thought this was a decent match. There was the Jade Cargill botch that the internet had a field day with, which, come on, people had botch. It happens. Yeah. And then when you find out the rope is loose, I mean, Damian Priest, I'm sure, didn't want his foot hung up in it as well. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I can't blame anybody for botching. I thought the match was as good as it was going to be. There was a little kind of some timing issues throughout the match. But I did love the ending. I love the fact that, basically picking the bones for the new champions. I dug it. So your guys' thoughts, starting with you, Nick, on the triple threat match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, it's tough with the botch just because it was so prevalent in the match, it was just such a big moment. But I think WWE is going to really turn and capitalize that. And it's going to allow for, Bianca to call her out saying, why are you trying to be flashy when we need to go out there and win? So I that's my prediction. What we're going to see on SmackDown is hopefully this week, but possibly next week, because WWE is good at stretching out the storylines. Overall, though, this was a great match. It was a lot of fun. Seeing everyone, and then the big pop at the end for the win. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Ken, your thoughts?
I was surprised they made the title switch, to be honest. But listen, I am not mad Fire and Dawn are getting a shot to run on the big stage. Because
3 Scottish people for belts, they had to have one win.
Right. But honestly, I thought that it was going to be somebody else that wins.
I got you.
So to see them pull this off, really happy, because I think they're just a very underrated tag team. And I'm surprised WWE is trying to do the breakup between Bianca and Jade so soon. I thought we'd get a little more title defenses before this happened.
No, maybe they're not going right to the breakup. They seem to be fine after the match. I mean, there was the footage. Bianca told her to hold her chin up. No, whatever. Maybe the mentorship, kind of like what Nick said, only you can stretch it out. If you're like, hey, you learn in losses, maybe they're trying to get back after the tag titles. You can get a few months of them trying to reestablish it and then not getting it. And then you can do a breakup. You can really drag this out, because I really believe if you're going to do a match between the two, WrestleMania is probably your best bet.
Absolutely.
Unless it's like another giant card that they throw out there. I don't think they're going to rush this for SummerSlam. I mean, we're going to talk about it in a minute. I think SummerSlam is pretty stacked already. Mm-hmm. Speaking of after this event. Next up, WWE Intercontinental Championship on the line. Your champion, Sami Zayn, taking on Chad Gable. He did have Otis and Maxine Dupree with him. 22 minutes, 15 seconds at the end of the day, and still the WWE Intercontinental Champion, Sami Zayn. And this was the almost final fracture of the Alpha Academy. We would see on Monday Night Raw that the Alpha Academy is finally kaputskis. I kind of like the fact that we were wrong and that the Creed brothers didn't just debut here at Clash at the Castle, because I think it's better to go with this angle, which we're going to be talking about later. Mm-hmm. Chad Gable being off TV probably a little bit, but maybe that wallop to the head he took, because I don't think anybody really unalive there. I think it's just beat down. We'll talk about that later, though, more in depth. I think that this is a good place to bring Chad Gable, because once again, the cool thing about it is what's making the money in the feud. Is it Chad Gable finally getting the Intercontinental title? Eventually, that's true. However, as a heel, it's much like Drew McIntyre. How much more into madness can you go before you have to come on the other side? And I think that's really good storytelling. Ken, your thoughts on the Intercontinental title match at Clash at the Castle?
I was surprised they did not make a move here, because I thought the storyline for me has always been about Chad Gable, but I'm not mad about this. I thought it was a great match. And then now to see where things are going to lead into, I think this opens up some doors for Sami to go somewhere else. And especially after Monday Night Raw, which we'll talk about later, I think they have very big plans for Chad Gable and what he's going to be doing with Team Gable 2.0.
I like it. Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to agree. I enjoyed the match, and I do think that this program between Sami and Chad is going to go on hiatus for now, or maybe even just be done all together. But I'm excited to see where this goes, though. Like Alpha is over probably. I mean, it seems pretty definitively that group is done, and it's exciting. That's been with us for a long time now. That group. So to see this fracture and everyone going to move on to different things like this, it's very exciting.
You definitely have to get away from the comedy act. Let's be honest. Chad Gable's in this new serious role, and I think that's the best thing to do. And we'll see where they go from there. Next up, WWE Women's Championship on the line. Your champion, the role model, Bayley, going one-on-one with Scotland's own Piper Niven, Chelsea Green in the corner. This match ultimately got 13 minutes and 30 seconds, and at the end of the day, your champion and still WWE Women's Champion, Bayley. We all kind of guessed this because obviously they're setting up Nia Jax and Bayley at SummerSlam, which was kind of no-brainer. However, here's the positives. Once again, I'm going to go on a limb and say I've been right. Every time Chelsea Green can get on your screen, she raises her stock. We saw her get kicked out of the match early, and then she came back under a luchador mask. Chelsea Verde replaced Chelsea Green. It was amazing. I thought it was great. And the other thing that I'm taking away from this match, now mind you, we've already said it. Bayley is the most underrated, probably women's wrestler on the planet. She deserves all the flowers. Great match. But I think Piper Niven raised her stocks beyond.
Completely.
Because after that match, I'm going to tell you there's nowhere in a world I do not believe that Piper Niven will not be a women's world champion within the next 2 years. She will hold a women's world title in the next couple of years. I promise you that much after that performance. Great performance. I know some people were judgmental about the crucifix bomb finish, but I thought it worked out nice. It's not a roll-up, folks. It is actually a maneuver. You get dumped on your head pretty hard when executed well, and Piper Niven took the bump really, really good.
Yeah.
And Bayley did the pinfall really good with the tight legs getting over. So I thought it looked very good. I didn't think it was a roll-up like some people try to accuse it of, because it wasn't. At the end of the day, though, like this match a lot, and I think that everybody's stock rose. Bayley being one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, bar none. Piper Niven coming up to that level, and Chelsea Green just showing why she's one of the most entertaining individuals, period, no matter across the board. Ken, your thoughts?
See, this is where I actually thought Niven might sneak this out. Because I think, and we've talked about this at length too, she is one of the most underrated wrestlers on the roster, and I agree with you completely. She's going to be a world champion within the next 2 years. There's just no way to deny her talent. I thought this was a really solid match, top to bottom. Chelsea Green is an MVP in her own right, and she is somebody that younger wrestlers should be looking up to because she maximizes every minute she's on television.
Also, before I turn it over to Nick, shout outs to WWE for removing it's Chelsea from the beginning of it and doing the Samantha Irving, it's Chelsea Green in the beginning of her music. That was epic. So we're not missing out on Samantha Irving getting to say Chelsea's name. So big kudos. Nick, your thoughts on the match?
This was my favorite match on the card. I love Bayley, so that's a big starting point right there. But Piper was fantastic in this, and Chelsea, she did her role really well as well. Like, this was a lot of fun. This was my favorite match of the night.
I think it's a very good match. It's right up there. I thought that the opening contest was really good. I thought this was really good. Honestly, I didn't think anything was bad on this card per se. I think some things were better than others. Was this like a blowaway PLE or pay-per-view? No. But at the same point in juncture, I thought it did solid work. I do agree with you. If the crowd would have been more behind, and I'm not crapping on the crowd, if the crowd would have been more behind her, I think that Chelsea Green, Piper Niven could have got the win. However, that crowd, even though it was her home country, was solidly Bayley fans. Like, they were singing they couldn't wait to sing the Bayley song. Yeah. They couldn't wait. They were like Bayley. It was like almost a second homecoming for Bayley, but Piper Niven raised her stock and even got the respect nod from the champ. And once again, we're talking about one of the best in Bayley.
Absolutely.
Well, that leaves us with the main event of the evening, and it was for the World Heavyweight Championship. Your champion representing the Judgment Day, Damian Priest, taking on the Scottish psychopath, Drew McIntyre. And of course, the Judgment Day was barred from ringside, but did that stop the Judgment Day? No. Does it ever stop the Judgment Day? No. By the way, you got to love seeing the bobblehead. This match got 20 minutes, 20 seconds, and at the end of the day, and still World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest. And of course, there's two big spots to this match. Of course, there was the kind of botch, but that's where the ropes really being played loose because there's no reason those ropes would have wrapped around his ankle.
Right.
Thankfully, from all reports, he's fine.
Right.
Because that could have ended real bad. And so that's nice. I thought the match itself outside of that was tremendous. I thought they both did a really good job. There was times where I thought Drew Mack was winning. There was times that I thought that Damian Priest was winning. I thought they did a great job across the board. And then we got to the end. And I'm going to say this. Possibly the camera work in WWE has been so good these days. And how great was this camera shot? The ref takes the bump. Out comes another ref after the Claymore. They shoot it perfect so you can't see the ref's face. We get the 1, the 2, and then nothing. And that's when the camera turns. And I mean, I could tell by the back of his head at one point, but still, it's CM Punk giving him the good old 2.
Yeah.
And smirking. And we're like, oh man, Punk got him. And let me say this before we continue on, because I want to get your guys' thoughts across the board. A lot of people were upset. Heard the internet. Oh my God. Oh, why did Drew resign with them 2 years in a row? They've embarrassed him in his home country. Oh my God. Guys, world title pop is great in your home country. Great. You know what's better? A generational feud. And if you guys aren't believing the generational feud that Punk and Drew McIntyre are only simmering now, which is going to build up now that both of them are going to be back active. Obviously Drew is already.
Right.
CM Punk is going to be back soon. Oh, guys, wait until SummerSlam with we've all been saying when Drew McIntyre takes on CM Punk in the first chapter of that feud, because it ain't going to be a one-match feud, folks.
No.
And I'll tell you what, it'll all work out. Let it slide. That's the weird part about I get it. I get the mentality. I get we want it now. But has everything we haven't learned from the Cody Rhodes situation? you let that breathe for a year. I was mad when it first happened. By the next day, you can ask Ken. I was like, okay, it was the right decision. And Ken's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And now that we know what happened at WrestleMania 40, it was the right decision. It was the right place, the right time. I don't know if they could have squeaked out some more than that, but you know what I mean?
That story had to end there.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? But I think that we all have to look past this. I think it's funny, and this is why I stay off the internet a lot, is because, guys, just let everything breathe. Let everything live. Let's see where it goes. And I think they've been doing great work for them not being able to work. Because remember, Drew was injured for part of it. Punk has been out. And somehow we're still interested in this match between CM Punk. That match doesn't need the title. And lest we forget, Gunther gets an automatic title shot. He earned that by becoming King of the Ring at SummerSlam. You can't get around that. You can't just go, okay, now Gunther doesn't get his shot, so we can do Drew Mack versus Punk. Or you give Drew Mack the title in his home country and then have him lose it at Money in the Bank so that way Gunther can have somebody to face at SummerSlam so you can still do Punk in Drew. I don't think that it works that way. And by the way, and I want to get everybody's opinion across the board, talking about Raw, I love Drew McIntyre quitting. The only thing I have judgment about is I wish The Rock and him weren't very public about his re-signing. Because how great would it have been if we all thought that he just signed like a small extension and not a big one, and just to get him through this, and then he really did quit. Yeah. So I got that's my only judgment about it. I loved everything else. Nick, we'll start with you. How'd you feel about the main event and everything going down with Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, and of course CM Punk?
That was one of my fears, was that that everyone was just going to focus on the McIntyre part of it. But Damian Priest looked phenomenal. This was a great match for him, a great title defense. No Judgment Day interference, so you knew it was going to be fairly clean, which it was, the Punk thing at the end. I didn't love the Punk part at the end. I felt like, and I know they tried to, cover a little bit. Oh, give me a referee shirt. They released that video on social media. I think you honestly could have just done it even without the referee shirt, had him in the right position in the ring so Matt can't see the guy slide in, do the 1, 2, and even a kick out would have been cool, because then McIntyre gets up and then realizes it's Punk, not even a referee, some sort of a, crazy finish there, and then the ref gets back in. Either way, this was awesome. And, going back to what you were talking about with McIntyre and Punk feud, there's still an opportunity for that final main event blow off of the two of them when this feud finally comes to an end. There's still the possibility that could be for a title. There's still an option for a title to get into this feud. So I don't know what anyone's going on about. This was gold. I didn't love it. but I did enjoy it.
Like, I'll take it a step further. This is the kind of thing that gives Punk his main event spot at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
So that's a perfect place to have a title on the line.
Right.
Ken, your thoughts?
I'm just gonna put it right in the chat. Hashtag Drew got screwed. I thought he should have pulled they should have got the title, and I had a feeling they were going to do this with Punk. They mentioned that he was going to run in, do a little interference. I know it was going to get a little kind of crazy for the hometown crowd, but this is ultimately to get their feud really going. And like you touched upon, it's just starting to simmer. I would not doubt that if this match is delayed until Mania, like they might want to do a year build just to really have fans just being so ravenous to see this, because they're putting in some of the best promo work you're seeing on social media. Drew has stepped his game up leaps and bounds. The threatening of quitting has really worked. And now you don't know when you're going to see him next. You might see CM Punk get into Money in the Bank and Drew comes back and returns the favor. Like they have a lot of storyline to go with this. So if they want to really build this up, and I could see this being a co-main event situation at Mania, unless one of them wins a title by then. Like there is so much storyline left to be had here. It's nothing short of brilliant. And I love that Damian Priest got a win here because I feel he needs one, especially where he's going next. I think that he needs to really start putting some wins together to say that this is not just a temporary championship run.
Oh yeah, I agree. I thought he did a fine job in this match. I thought that I think everything went the way it's supposed to go in storyline. Could you have gotten there differently? I guess, but you know what? Here's the thing. I think that it worked out for the best for what we needed to happen. That's just my beliefs on it, because I think that this Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud is that good. And I think it's going to deliver, and I think it's going to deliver us multiple matches. It's not going to just be a one and done situation. I'm going to tell you right now, Drew's going to get probably part of his things back because I think he goes over at SummerSlam. If that's the match that happens, I think he goes over.
Yeah, I agree.
Because then you've had Punk being the tormentor, and now you can switch the role to Drew being the tormentor. And that's a perfect thing. These guys can go back and forth with being the tormentor. And the whole time, the best part about it is it makes you forget that CM Punk should probably be in the title picture, right? So isn't that amazing that when we're just judging about this Drew McIntyre possible pop in his hometown, if you will, or home country, and next thing you know, we're all forgetting that CM Punk probably should be in contention for a championship upon his return. But instead, we all want to see him versus Drew Mac.
Right.
I think it's perfect. I think they did this pretty well. Let's talk about another thing. We're going to recap it because this had more matches, so we're going to recap it a little more quickly, if you will. But we still love some total nonstop action in TNA presented against all odds this past Friday, June the 14th, from the Cicero Stadium in Cicero, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. Let me do the rundown of the card, and then we can talk about the matches we liked and everything that went down. On the pre-show, there was 2 matches. One, Sami Callihan would defeat Jonathan Gresham by pinfall. The official match was only 2 minutes and 23 seconds long, but let's be honest, this match was more like 10. At the end, Callihan took an advantage of a distraction because the octopus was distracted by Kushida. So Kushida also got some of his ink, and we'll see where that goes in the future because obviously as it takes over. Next up, the TNA Knockouts Championships were on the line. Your champions, Militia, that would be Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich, taking on the Hex, Allison Kay and Marty Bell. This match got 7 minutes and 59 seconds at the end of the day, and still your TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions, the Militia. Next up, the start of the show. The opening contest was a tag team contest. No titles on the line, but we had Steve Macklin tagging with Mike Santana as they defeated the Rascals, Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz in 12 minutes and 51 seconds. Next up, PCO would defeat Rich Swann. Rich Swann, of course, with AJ Francis in his corner, 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Then next up would be the TNA World Tag Team Championship match. The System, your tag team champions, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, would successfully defend their titles against the Nemeth brothers, Nick Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth, because Dirty Dango joined the System? Yeah,
reasons.
Next up, in a singles match, Frankie Kazarian would defeat I Believe in Joe Hendry. Of course, that would also set up the NXT spot because, as everybody knows, there was a battle royal on NXT involving locker rooms, and Joe Hendry would make his NXT debut, and Frankie Kazarian would eliminate him in like 30 seconds. I know there was people who were upset about that, but hey, I'm going to tell you what, the pop he got was what WWE was looking for, folks. If you know, you know. I think right now this deal with TNA is kind of almost a sub-developmental deal like an NXT, a secondary NXT, and I wouldn't be surprised if folks like Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry are not coming to the E when their contracts are up. Next up, speaking of the against the All Odds, the X Division Championship on the line, Mustafa Ali would defend that title against Trent Seven, 15 minutes and 33 seconds. Then we had a tag team match where our favorite team, ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, would defeat Eric Young and Josh Alexander in 18 minutes and 17 seconds. Followed by the TNA Knockouts World Championship Open Challenge. Jordan Grace had an open challenge, and it was answered by what we feared, Tatum Paxley.
Yeah.
So that match went 11 minutes, 14 seconds, and still your TNA Knockouts World Champion, Jordan Grace. By the way, Tatum Paxley did a good job in this match. I wish it was somebody else. And last but not least, in the main event of the evening for the TNA World Championship, Moose, your champion, would defeat Broken Matt Hardy in 21 minutes and 32 seconds. But the big story is after the match, when the beatdown went on, we got the return to TNA of Jeff Hardy, that is, for those that know. And interesting stuff going on. Ken, your thoughts about TNA against all odds?
Solid show. I was happy that Jeff did not do the dance before doing the run-up save like he did in AEW. I thought all the matches really delivered. I mean, TNA does these PLE/signature shows very, very well. And you get your money's worth every time. Would I've liked to seen a different opponent for Jordan Grace? Yes, it's nothing against Tatum, but I thought we were going to get natty. And there was the social tease going on, and I thought that would have been a real marquee matchup. But they still delivered, and I think now we're seeing more of an open door that is promoting both brands, which that's the whole point of doing these Forbidden Doors. So I love the show. I thought it was great.
Nick, your thoughts about TNA against all odds?
TNA with another great show. I just wish it would translate to more people watching, because they, like we've talked about, they really have the best balance of great matches and storytelling, and unfortunately not enough people are watching. But partnering up with WWE, hopefully that's the catalyst to get people watching TNA again, because there's a lot of talented people there doing a lot of talented work, and it's a good show. Please watch.
Yeah, I enjoyed the show. It was another good PLE, if you will, because this is one if you had TNA Plus that you got included in TNA Plus. It was only $10 if you got it on Triller. I thought they did a good job. I thought they knocked it out of the park. I liked how they didn't over rely on the surprises. And even though, there was a couple, Jeff Hardy being obviously one of them. And I thought that from top to bottom, and go do the dance, if you will. Top to bottom, from the pre-show to the main event, I thought that they put on a hell of a show. It was entertaining. And I definitely, anybody who wants to watch good wrestling, check out TNA, because they're doing good things. Speaking of another great company, New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced the bracket for the G1 Climax tournament. Oh, yeah. And first thing first, they've gone back to the A and the B blocks. There's no A, B, C, D. Remember the last couple of years they did multitudes? They just did A and B block. So go ahead and put that graphic up, Ken, because this is the A block. Here is who is announced for the A block. By the way, the G1 Climax will officially kick off on July 20th. So in the A block, we've got Shuta Umino, Tetsuya Naito, Shingo Takagi, former champion Sonata, Great Khan, Zack Sabre Jr., Gabe Kidd, representing Pro Wrestling Noah, Jake Lee, Evil. And then you're going to notice that on both of these, there's a qualifier. We're going to talk about the qualifiers in a second, but we'll go through B block first. So let's jump over to B block. B block will be represented by El Phantasmo, Hiroki Goto, Yota Tsuji, Yua Uemura, Jeff Cobb, Henrai, David Finlay, Ren Narita, and Takeshita from AEW will be in the G1 Climax this year. I guess that's their one person that's in. And they will also have a qualifier. Now, the qualifiers are going down like this. This upcoming weekend is when the qualifiers start. They're both blocks will have a qualifier. On your screen now, you will see the qualifiers for A block, which the starts of June 22nd. Then in Kurokan, it'll be on 7-3. And then Tokyo Budokan on the 5th will determine the last person in both A and B block. So in your play-in, you have Chase Owens versus Yoshihashi this weekend. And you also have Callum Newman versus Yujiro Takahashi. The winners of those matches, one will take on Tomohiro Ishii, the other will take on Kenta, and then the winners of those matches will go in the finals. Whoever wins will be in to the G1 Climax. Let's check out the B side. So, of course, the same weekend, we'll have Toru Yano versus Bolton Oleg. And then we'll also have Satoshi Kojima taking on TJP. The winner of Yano Oleg will take on Tanahashi the day before Independence Day here in the U.S. And on the other side of it, the winner of Kojima TJP will take on Taichi. The winners of those two matches will face each other in Tokyo Budokan. And the winner will be the qualifier entered in. So an interesting thing that they're doing here in New Japan. Ken, I know me and you are the bigger of the New Japan fans. What is your thoughts on this year's tournament, the G1 Climax? I remember last year we had 4 blocks.
Right.
This year, we only have the 2 blocks back, but we have these qualifiers, almost like reminiscent of the NBA play-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very exciting to do this. Kenta is my pick to get in there from the tourney there. And the other bracket, I'm honestly not sure. I mean, you almost have to think it's Tanahashi. But I really like how they're having Takesha in there. I think maybe that could be a big surprise. Obviously, with Jon Moxley being IWGP World Champion, that could set up some storylines. I don't know necessarily if they want to go there, but I think the bracket is wide open. I would love to see Gabe Kidd pull it off too. But if I got to pick right now, I always got to go Kenta.
I love it. I love it. Nick, your thoughts about the G1 Climax and the play-in tournament, if you will.
I like the reduction down the 2 brackets with the play-in tournament style thing. I think the roster's just really not there to do the big brackets this year, and that's fine because you can pull this back a little bit. And like you said, these play-in little brackets, these little mini tourneys, that's going to be a lot of fun to see who's actually in, the full bracket. I'm with Ken though. When in doubt, go with Kenta.
You know what though? I like Kenta getting in on the main card as well. Like I said, I think this is every so often they try something new. Like last year was the 4 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going back to the 2 traditional blocks. I think you're right, Nick. You hit the nail on the head. I think it is because of and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but AEW has pillaged a lot of the top stars from in New Japan. We know this.
Oh, this is true.
So it does kind of hurt when you're coming into G1, especially because you want to put the best of the best. Now, I think that the lineup for this year's G1 is second to none.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be some really, really good stuff coming out of this year. G1 is one of my favorite times of year. And, obviously the winner goes on to main event January 4th, Wrestle Kingdom. That is a guarantee. Whoever wins this tournament is going to do that. So there's a lot of, this is another one of those years where I could pick 15 of these guys that could win and main event, the Tokyo Dome.
Right.
I don't know who's going to do it. Is Jon Moxley even going to be still our champion at the Tokyo Dome? Who knows? There's still a lot of time and a lot of big shows in between now and the Tokyo Dome. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I think they have a good stuff going on. And if you would like to see all of that New Japan action, the play-in tournament, and then of course the G1 Climax, you can find that in all of the all in English commentary with our good friend Walker Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
I find that at njpwworld.com, 999 yen. Don't freak out here in the States. That's about $9 American. So you might want to check your local currency if you're one of our international listeners. Check it out. Great stuff over there in New Japan World. They are not a sponsor, but we just like it so much. Now, we are going to go from one tournament to another because we got the brackets for the Owen Hart Cup, the AEW Owen Hart Cup. And unfortunately, we only got a good graphic for the men's before I went on there, folks. And I didn't want to put up a crappier version. So I do have the lineup for both the men's and the women's, but I only have the graphic for the men's, which is fine. So we have Claudio Castagnoli and Pac fought this past week on Dynamite, with Pac moving on in the tournament. Still to come, we know that at Forbidden Door, it will be Bryan Danielson taking on Shingo Takagi. This upcoming weekend, Rey Fenix versus Jay White. And then Jeff Jarrett against a wild card. And whoever gets there is going to be the winner. On the women's side of the bracket, we have Willow Nightingale and Serena Deeb, which is going down technically on Rampage, but that's already happened, so I won't give that spoiler out, folks. And then, of course, Chris Statlander took on Nyla Rose this past week on Dynamite, and Chris Statlander has moved on. And then Deonna Purrazzo will be taking on Hikaru Shida, and Mariah May taking on Saraya to round out the women's bracket for the tournament. All right, Nick, with that being said, who do you like in the men's and women's Owen Hart Cup for 2024?
In the men's, I'm really liking Jay White. I know we've always talked about Jay White not really doing enough of anything, but here's his opportunity to do something, and I believe in Jay White. So in the women's, that one's tougher. That one's a little bit more wide open for me right now. I haven't made my decision, but I'm expecting Willow to do really well.
Ken, what's your thoughts? Who you got in both the tournaments?
Oh man. So this has to go to Bryan Danielson. I think this has all been building for this. I like how they're doing the storyline to set it up for him a little bit. And then for the women's bracket, you have to kind of take a look here. I think they're honestly setting up for Chris Statlander to really make a run here. And I think that could definitely happen. I think it just depends on, a couple different factors. I mean, the Mariah May thing, there has been a storyline there to get her against Toni Storm. I don't necessarily know if they would do that or not. So, I mean, just there is so many different ways they could go about this, but I think Statlander is the safe pick for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Bryan Danielson because I think that's what they've been building towards. If not, it's kind of strange to have him cut that fiery promo. And then on the female side, I mean, it's interesting that we could get Statlander and Willow Nightingale in the semifinals and not in the finals. So I'm actually going to go on a limb and I don't know, maybe the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Soraya actually gets the title shot because why not? She's been the squeaky wheel lately, so that's where it's at. So, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Staying in some fun news, we teased it last week on the show that Pro Wrestling Noah said that they had a big announcement with WWE and that it was going to go down and a wrestler was going to have a special spot. Well, we found out on Sunday that it was the announcement that AJ Styles will be taking on Marufuji at Destination. And that will be coming to you on July the 13th. It's a Saturday. And so AJ Styles returns to Japan, taking on a legend in Marufuji. This is going to be a phenomenal match, pun intended. What did you think about the big news, Nick? And how are you feeling about the phenomenal one going back to Japan?
This is huge news. It's going to be a banger of a match, and I have no idea who's going to win, and I'm happy about that. Not even an inkling.
That's fair enough. Ken, your thoughts?
Love this. I mean, for AJ, this frees him up. If this is really his farewell tour, he might as well go to everywhere he wants to go. And he'll be the ambassador for WWE. Him going to Noah, this is big. And especially in the match he's in. I mean, I don't doubt him maybe swinging over through New Japan on the way. I think that they would do maybe a cool storyline if he became a belt collector.
Maybe. There's a possibility. I think this match is going to be classic. This is one of those matches that's it's a dream match. It has happened in the past, but it's a dream match for now. And I think this is a very big deal. We were wondering who they were going to send over. And I don't think, AJ Styles did come up briefly, but I think we were all thinking TNA. And instead, he's going to Noah for the time being. I don't know if this is going to be an extended stay, but we know at least we're getting him on July 13th. Big bad show. So make sure you're checking out Destination when that hits the airwaves. I do believe you can get that on Wrestle Universe, if I'm not mistaken, but we will have more details as we get closer to the show. Well, there's things that happen on Raw, right? And one of the things that happened, and I don't even have it pictured because it got totally blown out by the final segment, but we had the unexpected return of Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rollins returns from injury. What could it be a bigger story? Him and Damian Priest in the ring. Seth Rollins is going to enter the Money in the Bank, and instead, Damian Priest says, "No, I ain't no sucker. Go ahead, I'll take you on, me and you, yes or no." And yes, now at Money in the Bank, we got Seth freaking Rollins taking on Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight title. You think, man, that's a great comeback, right? We had the explosion of Health of Academy. We had some great in-ring matches. We had some good storytelling going on. And you would think that would be enough. We had a qualifier for Money in the Bank even, too. Mm-hmm. One on the women's side, one on the men's side. But at the end of the night, all anybody could talk about is the debut of a group that we thought we'd never see. A group that has been rumored for so long that they've been almost as rumored as long as the movies that we've talked about in the past. We're like, I'll believe it when I see it. Like we've heard forever about those mythical things that were going to happen. And this was one of those times. But ladies and gentlemen, the WYATT SICK6, or as they're actually known, the WYATT SICK6, SICK, and the number 6, have debuted on Monday Night Raw in one of the craziest, most insane opening live cinematic features. Now, mind you, first of all, I got to say this. Kudos to the camera crew and the production team in WWE, because this was live, folks. They actually shot this. This was not shot earlier in the day and replayed. No. They shot it live. And I got to give a really cool genius thing that was shouted out that I had passed on to you, but the Blue Meanie put it out there on X, is that how great is it that when Drew McIntyre quit, they fouled him through the back. And he was like, the reason they did that was to show you that the back was perfectly fine previous to what was going to happen. So it was like kind of like when you use the real baseball bat and you bang it on the metal stairs before you switch to the rubber one. So you think it's real. You know what I mean? I thought that was perfect. But I'll say this. Nikki Cross, when she crawled out, I was like, if there's children up watching this, that's nightmare fuel. And then as we're going through the back and we're seeing people being unalived, if you will, which I'll get to what I think it was in a minute, because I don't think anybody was actually unalived. We get the shots of each one of them in their menacing, I shouldn't say costumes, it was mostly masked. First, you got the shot of Eric Rowan and the bunny. So he's Rambling Rabbit, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And then we got the shot of our good friend Joe. Or no, sorry. First, we got Dexter Lumis as Mercy the Buzzard. He's just sitting there with his little whatever he had in his hand playing with. And then we go around the corner. We get the Huskus Pig played by our friend Joe Gacy before finally seeing Uncle Howdy in his new incarnation. And then walking back. And then we got to see the bodies of such luminaries as Triple H.
Yep.
Chad Gable. You also Gunther was back there, and then the bottle of puzzle bodies, and many more. You know, there's a lot of people that were strewn all over the place because it is what it is. First of all, I'm going to say this. In my opinion, it wasn't unalived. Remember, Rowan has this big hammer. I think they just beat people up. They're like, well, how did Chad Gable have blood coming down his head? Because if you get smacked in the head with a hammer, you're going to have blood coming down your head. You know what I mean? So I don't think that I understand that there was some jokes around him, and Uncle Howdy did tweet out about, oh man, how do you make it out alive?
Yeah.
Although the Karrion Kross tweet, because I still call him tweets, I don't care.
Yeah. Talking
about, when somebody was like, Chad Gable was unalived, he was like, no, he's not. He's like, what do you mean? We saw it on TV. He's like, oh, you don't understand Chad Gable then. Have you ever seen him work out? Like Karrion Kross is doing the Lord's work on X. I got to give him credit for that.
He's a great follow.
He's a hilarious, and he has a great Jesse Ventura impersonation. If you've never heard it.
Oh my God, yeah.
So WYATT six. Sorry, I have to throw the C in there because it is 6, not 6. The letter or the number. I said the letter. Ooh, wow, it's getting late. No, I'm joking. All right. So with that, I want to get your guys' take. What did you guys think? I'll give my final thoughts on it. I just painted the picture. But I want to start with you, Ken. What did you think of the debut of the WYATT 6?
Chat, super chat. I want to see your reactions in the chat as well here. I thought this was brilliant for taking the late Bray Wyatt's vision and really giving it such a grand entrance and diving into the horror aspect more than the supernatural. I think that's the big stressing point here too, that I don't think we're going to have like an Undertaker-esque aura around Uncle Howdy. I think they're going to do it more like a horror movie. I thought they did it brilliantly, and they established themselves as a presence, and they wanted to really have everybody talking, and the reaction from the crowd, I thought, said it all, because this could have gone a lot of different ways. But I think the cinematic approach they did, and they really played into that vision that Bray had and brought it to life and are going to carry it now into a different direction. I just thought like everything about this was nothing but win.
Nick, your thoughts?
How do we get the Raw after WrestleMania, after Clash at the Castle? I mean, this Raw was stacked.
Yeah.
Absolutely stacked.
Very good.
This is the perfect group for what we've talked about here on the show as the cinematic era of WWE. We've seen the new camera angles, we've seen the way they've cut the show now, we've seen the way they use the backstage area now. They use it a lot differently than they did in the previous iterations of WWE. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to look beautiful in this new cinematic era of WWE.
See, I'm going to say this. First of all, I'll get this out of the way. I'm not a huge fan of the supernatural in wrestling. Now, get you, all the respect in the world, the Undertaker fan, you know what I mean? But I think that even with that character, we just let a lot of things go because, whatever. Bray Wyatt was doing so much amazing things that, and his creativity was so great that I think we let that slide as well. And I think that really, unfortunately, with his passing, I think that should have passed too. And I would agree with Ken. I think, and there's reports to say this, but once again, all things are rumor until proven. I think that they're leaning more into the horror realm than they are the supernatural realm. Because there's a lot of people like, well, how are you going to beat, Bray Wyatt when he was the Fiend? You couldn't beat him, but how are you going to beat all? Because they're not. They're more of a cult. They're going back to a horror. Nobody looked like they had superpowers. They're guys in masks, and we know who they are. The commentators were saying who they were. So it's not like it's unknown who the WYATT Six are. It's not unknown at all. By the way, yes, I understand there's only 5. The 6th person's Bray Wyatt.
Right.
So I guarantee the only supernatural thing that I'm willing to go with is that maybe Howdy's talking to Bray from beyond the grave. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I can go with that story. Hopefully that's where we go with it. You know what I mean? And it is staying in the horror realm. If it gets too supernatural, it's not my cup of tea. However, I loved how it looked. I love how it was presented. And I really think that they did a home run. And to your point about them making it a big deal, possibly the WYATT Six disrupted the Pat McAfee show today.
Yeah. As
we're recording on Thursday. That's being reported across the board, including mind you, that's a show that runs on ESPN and YouTube. So there's something there. They're running this across the board. They're doing a lot of things. And I think that I can't remember. So I apologize for not quoting who it was, but I had seen somebody's analysis say, hey, I don't think that these guys are going to be on one show.
No,
they're not signed
everywhere.
Up. They're not signed up through a draft. You know what I mean? I think what you're going to get in the beginning of this, I mean, you might get some matches, maybe, but I think what you're going to get in the beginning of this is they're going to show up where they want, when they want, and they're going to wreak havoc. So plan on seeing them on SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
Plan on seeing them on NXT. Plan on seeing them on Raw. Maybe not the whole group, maybe only a member or two, maybe all of them, but I think they're going to mix it up. I think you're going to see some crazy stuff. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised to see them at TNA.
That's what I was just going to say.
I knew, I kind of saw in your eyes, and I was thinking the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see them show up on the Pat McAfee show.
That would be wild.
It sounds wild, but
it works though.
I'm just saying
it does work.
There is a lot of avenues you can go here, and this is one of those wait and sees. The one take that I saw on the internet and I'm not giving any shout out for this because anybody who believes this can just F off, was somebody, there were some people, one person loudly, or more loud than others, I should say, was saying about how this is just a cash grab for WWE. And I want to start this off by saying this. First of all, this is the wrestling business. So it's a business. So by the definition of business, everything is a cash grab for a business. So yeah, in that aspect, you're 110% right, but that's not how you were using it. You were trying to say that this was sleazy. I would also argue that the Owen Cup part, if you're going by that logic, is a cash grab for AEW. However, I don't go by that logic because I believe it's a great way to honor a tremendous professional wrestler the same way that this is honoring Bray Wyatt. Let's get some facts out of the way. Bray Wyatt's family, Bray Wyatt himself, was signed to a Legends contract. His family is currently signed to an actual contract as well. So they get a portion of every shirt sold, every piece of merch sold from the WYATT Six. There you go. That is going to help pay for his wife and his children going forward. And then, of course, that Legend deal is even sweeter because then you can buy the Bray Wyatt merch that's up on WWE Shop, and that goes to them. And everything else that goes with it. So you got to give the leeway. Here's the other problem. His brother, Bo Dallas, if you will, Kendall Windham, if you want to call it, or Taylor Windham, sorry. It's Taylor Windham because his sister's Kendall.
Right.
Sorry. So Taylor Windham, he is the current Uncle Howdy. He was Uncle Howdy before. They had been planning stuff for when Bray was returning because remember, before he unfortunately passed away, he was on the return. This is some of what they were planning. They were planning the WYATT Six then.
Yeah.
With him. So all they're doing now is they're taking the Uncle Howdy character, which is played by his real life brother, and going, all right, what can we do with this? How can we have to morph some of it because Bray's not here, but how can we get his vision and a vision that's true to him? And I think what we saw on Monday night If you would have told me Bray Wyatt wrote that for scene, I'd believe it. Also in that group, one of Bray Wyatt's best friends, Eric Rowan, who's returned to the company to be part of this angle. Do you think that his brother and one of his best friends would be there if they were just screwing over the legacy of one Bray Wyatt? I doubt it.
Not even.
Highly.
Not even an option.
Listen, I know WWE isn't perfect. And I know under Vince McMahon, there was a lot of terrible things. And I'm not saying that, in corporate America, TKO is a million times better. I mean, it is than Vince, but I'm not saying that they're not crossing any lines. Listen, me and Ken will be the first to say we're MMA fans and the UFC pay structure is sickening. Okay. So it's not like they're innocent and guilt-free, right? However, in this case, I think it was an unfair judgment completely. Because if you're going to be that callous to say that about this, then you have to bring in other things. And I don't think it's fair because I don't think Tony Khan started the Owen Hart Cup to be like, oh man, let's cash grab off of Owen's name. No, I think he did it as a nice way, knowing that the widow of Owen Hart would never let WWE use his name. It was a nice way to make sure that we continue to remember Owen Hart. Honestly, I don't think that Tony Khan is some sinister character.
Right.
And I don't think in the case of Bray Wyatt, that's happening here either. His sister took to Instagram and said how proud she was of her brother and what he did in the vision that him and her other brother, who is no longer with us, made, and how proud of him she is. If you want to go read that teary, I can't read it on air because I'll start crying. I teared up when I read it the first time. His father took to social media and other outlets to say how proud he was of how the job that they did and his son for keeping his other son's memory alive. If the family saying that and Bray's direct family, his wife and children, are profiting off of this, which will help their family going forward, I don't want to hear some cash grab nonsense just because you hate the letters WWE. This tribalism stuff, it's got to stop. It really does. It's one thing to be like, oh, my favorite wrestler. It's one thing when you hear people saying, well, Will Ospreay dresses like a scumbag. I don't think he does. But, who cares how he dresses? It's how he wrestles at the end of the day, right? But that was something that went around after last night, right? Because obviously we record on Thursdays. But it's one thing that I don't want to hear either, but at least that doesn't hurt anybody.
Right.
Literally calling out a company and which by proxy of calling out the company, you're calling out his brother and one of his best friends and his family who's all behind it. You got to remember who you're calling out when you're calling out. You're not just calling out the three letters of WWE. I just laid you out the entire how this came to be. By the way, Genius moved, going back to the actual storyline, Genius moved to pull Chad Gable from next week's Raw.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. So he's been replaced. Anyways, I know I got heavy there. So if you guys would like to add into that heaviness or even the lightheartedness to put a button on the debut of the WYATT SICK6.
Nick, I will just kick us off with this, and I'll just keep it very short and very sweet. They did this as a fitting tribute, and if anybody else can't see it, I don't have time of day for them. This is a perfect way to pay tribute to somebody who left a lasting legacy behind, and his family is behind this, and where they want to go with it, I think we should all be supporting.
I agree. Nick, your thoughts in closing on the debut of the WYATT SICK6?
Yeah, there's nothing I can really add to what Ken said. Like, let's see what happens here. Let's let this go. So far, it's been a lot of fun. It's been very intriguing, and it's exciting. This is great to honor the legacy and to continue adding something that WWE is kind of missing right now back into the fold as well under his legacy. Like, I'm all for it.
Like I said, I'm all about celebrating the life. It's great that they're able to do that while also finding a way to make a profit for the family. Yeah, who cares what the company gets out of it? You're still making, two small children and a widow, a living, by giving, they didn't have to do that.
Right.
But they did. And that's great. Just like AEW didn't have to do all the things that they did for Brody's family when he passed away, but they did. And that's the positives, folks. That's not negative. That's a positive light. Just like the Owen Hart Cup is a beautiful thing. The more we can remember and pay homage to the people who came before and change the world, if you will, like legit. I understand that is one of the slogans for AEW. That's fine. But think about it. Owen Hart, a lot of the smaller guys that we see now doing the athletic things would not be in the positions they're in if it wasn't for Owen Hart. There's other guys on that road, but Owen Hart was one of them. And let that be known.
Yeah.
Next up, Bray Wyatt. We thought that there was no way in hell you could ever do an Undertaker-esque gimmick again. Not in the 21st century.
Not in this era.
Not now. But somehow, because he was such a good damn storyteller, we bypassed some of the things that were kind of cheesy because it was just damn good stories. And now we're going to pay homage to that. So once again, keeping him alive through the work, that is amazing in its own. And it goes on like Brody Lee as well. You know, I know that AEW is putting out a Reebok in partnership with Reebok. It's one of the things that hit for Brody Lee's, remembering Brody Lee, with proceeds going to charity and everything else. Awesome. And I'll never criticize Tony Khan and AEW for that. I will never criticize WWE for what's going on with this. Now, if they ever cross the line,
sure.
Well, we call it down the middle.
Right.
If you cross the line and you do something that is so egregious, like fire everybody and then hire some other people and think you're going to get away with it, or try to recast this or that. Okay. You know, we'll call you on it. Trust me, your feet will be to the flames. But to say that up front on a debut, when literally his brother was the one that got the lantern and did "We're Here," and it looked so great. Like that Uncle Howdy look was a perfect melding between Bray and what the original Uncle Howdy look was. I thought that was great. And I love the mask. I think that it was just a great. And once again, trying a guy who doesn't like supernatural. That's why I hope they're really leaning more in the horror. Because I really don't like supernatural storylines in wrestling. Because it's not that I have to have everything real in wrestling. It's kind of, sometimes it's hard to go back and forth, if you will. But with that being said, it was a great week of pro wrestling. We got another great week coming up next week, like we do every week, because you know what? There's a little pay-per-view going down a week from Sunday.
This is true.
Called the Forbidden Door. So next week we'll be talking more about that. Of course, there'll be a pre-show and everything else, but that's going to wrap it up for this week. Before we go, though, Nick, can you tell the fine folks how to get a hold of you if they want to talk about the Pokemans, the wrestling, the news, or whatever else you want to talk about over there?
Listen, you guys want to follow me? You want to follow my very interesting life? Go ahead and click that QR code right there. But realistically, if you really want to know what's going on, follow me right here every Thursday night with these two guys talking wrestling.
I just want to point out, if you haven't gone over to the either the TikTok or the YouTube Shorts and checked out Nick as a bar wench at Ren Fair, make sure you do that. It's got quite a few views. So if you haven't done that already, check that out. He's bringing you real life inside of not just Pokemans and pro wrestling. I'm just throwing it out there. Ken, what do you got to tell the people? You got a laundry list.
Oh, very quickly. I'll make it short. I'll make it sweet. ODPHpodcast.com. If you're new to Nerd Initiative, we just want to remind you, Nerd Initiative loves QR codes. So click on that QR code you see on the screen. That'll take you to what's going on with me, Padawan Jay, and the rest of the team. New episodes dropping left and right, and obviously coming off the heels of a great episode of Turn a Page this week, 8 p.m. Tuesday nights, where myself, Tom Craven, our pop culture connoisseur, and more members of the Nerd Initiative Bullpen get together to talk about great stories, talk to fantastic creators, and so much more in the world of comics. This past week, we broke down Superman Son of Kal-El #5, which is a very important issue. So you definitely want to join in the conversation on that. And obviously, that is the kickoff for New Comic Book Day, kicking off 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, one more week, and then everything's on Wednesday.
Woo!
So that is going to be a very, very highly viewed day on nerdinitiative.com. Every 15 minutes, a new review is dropping from the best review team in comics, bar none. So if we're not talking about it, I don't know what you're picking up, but I want to know about it, because we are giving you recommendation upon recommendation upon recommendation of the best of the weeks, bar none. So that being said, it all kind of leads right into where you come here every Thursday night. But our guy that is leading the ship here, he has a podcast you should be knowing about.
If you want to get a hold of me and talk anything, even though I'm not too busy on social medias, because, it's going to be a depressing place. 3FNpodcast.com has all the social media links. On top of that, if you would like to hear an adult humor movie review podcast, go ahead and check that out. This past week, we did a review for The Watchers. Interesting movie. Go find out what we thought. That's on this past week. Of course, Batman. We did Batman 89 this past month, and so much more great stuff. Bike Riders is this week as well. Speaking of which, Nick already mentioned the show. So every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, he's already done that. No reason to double it up. And now Now I'm going to go over and tell you all about nerdinitiative.com once again, because it is the home of pop culture positivity. You want to make sure you go check out nerdinitiative.com. If your fandoms aren't there, they will be there. Trust me, we're adding them left and right. And you want to join the revolution on the ground floor. Also, because I'm contractually obligated to mention this, Nerd Initiative merch is available. Wear that merch in the wild. Let them know. There is NI Wrestling and Wrestling Night Live merch there as well. So make sure you're supporting the brand. It's awesome. If you don't want to use that QR code, which is super easy, so you should, you can always find it at nerdinitiative.com as well. And last but certainly not least, I want to give you one last reminder, and there's a nice little QR code for those of you who are watching. If you're watching on Facebook, X, Twitch, or Kick, if you're watching it there, you can scan that QR code. That will take you over to the Nerd Initiative YouTube channel. Make sure you smash the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell icon for notifications so you know whenever we go live or whenever there are new videos up. And last but not least, hit the thumbs up to let the bosses know you want more pro wrestling action. So we're making it nice and easy for you here at the home of pop culture positivity. All right, with that being said, guys, got another huge week next week, like I've already mentioned. But for this week, we're all out of time. So with that being said, for just Nick, for Ken M, for myself, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next week, later, wrestling fans!